5 years had passed since Jungkook and Taehyung's divorce. The split had been messy, fueled by misunderstandings and a sense of lost connection that neither had known how to repair. Jungkook had thrown himself into work, trying to forget, while Taehyung sought solace in new relationships. The two men had barely crossed paths since, until fate decided to intervene. It was a cool autumn evening when Jungkook stumbled upon them. He had gone to a local bar with a few friends, hoping to relax and escape the weight of his memories. As he leaned against a counter, nursing a drink, he glanced over and froze. There, in a dimly lit corner, sat Taehyung with YN, a woman who had once been a close friend of both men, but whose involvement had been a significant factor in Jungkook's heartbreak. The sight of them laughing together twisted something deep in his gut. In a moment of impulsive rage, Jungkook raised his finger at them, his heart pounding with a mix of anger and sadness. Taehyung looked up, his eyes widening before a chuckle escaped his lips. It was a sound Jungkook once found endearing, but now it felt like a dagger to his heart. YN noticed, her expression faltering slightly as she registered the tension. Jungkook turned away, a storm of emotions swirling inside him. He thought he had moved on, but seeing them together brought back all the pain he had buried. The next morning, Jungkook awoke to an unexpected reality. Blinking away the remnants of sleep, he turned to his side and froze. There, sprawled next to him, was Taehyung, his ex-husband. The memories of the night before flooded back, and Jungkook cursed under his breath. They had gone home together after a few more drinks, the night spiraling into a whirlwind of emotions and physical connection. It had felt so right in the moment, but now, in the harsh light of day, it felt like a terrible mistake. He slipped out of bed quietly, trying not to wake Taehyung. Each step felt heavy with the weight of regret. Jungkook made his way to the kitchen, hoping to gather his thoughts and find some semblance of clarity. He poured himself a glass of water, the cool liquid a brief distraction from the turmoil within. As he stood there, contemplating his next move, the sound of footsteps behind him made him jump. YN emerged from the hallway, rubbing her eyes, a confused expression on her face. "Jungkook?" she asked, her voice laced with sleep. "YN," he replied, struggling to mask his surprise. "What are you doing here?" "I stayed over. I didn't expect to find you here," she said, her gaze darting to the closed bedroom door, a hint of realization dawning on her. Jungkook's heart raced. The tension between them was palpable. "Last night was a mistake," he blurted, regretting the harshness in his tone. YN frowned. "Was it? Or were you just afraid of facing what you really want?" "I wanted to move on," he shot back defensively. "This isn't what I wanted. Maybe you need to reconsider what moving on really means," she said softly, a touch of sympathy in her eyes. Before Jungkook could respond, Taehyung emerged from the bedroom, his hair tousled, looking both relaxed and charming as ever. He caught sight of YN and Jungkook, confusion flickering across his face. "Good morning," Taehyung said, rubbing his eyes. His gaze landed on Jungkook, and the warmth in his smile felt like a punch to the gut. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Jungkook snapped, unable to hide his irritation. "Just having a little chat about last night." Taehyung's expression shifted to one of concern. "Did something happen?" Jungkook turned away, unable to meet Taehyung's gaze. The memories of their intimate moments flooded back, the laughter, the warmth, the way their bodies had intertwined in a mix of passion and vulnerability. I need to go, he said abruptly, making a move toward the door. Wait, Taehyung called after him, but Jungkook was already outside, the crisp air hitting him like a wave of clarity. He walked aimlessly, trying to process the chaos in his mind. What was he feeling? Was it anger, or something deeper? Was he truly ready to let go of Taehyung? Or had their connection, though strained, never truly faded? As Jungkook walked through the neighborhood, the world around him blurred. He found himself at a park, sitting on a bench, and trying to collect his thoughts. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from YN. Let's talk later. I think we need to clear the air, he sighed, knowing she was right. Avoidance wouldn't solve anything. The feelings for Taehyung were still there, buried beneath layers of hurt and pride. As much as he wanted to deny it, he missed him, more than he was willing to admit. After a while, Jungkook headed back home, ready to confront whatever awaited him. Taehyung was sitting at the kitchen table when he returned, an air of uncertainty hanging between them. Can we talk? Taehyung asked, his voice low. About what? Jungkook replied, crossing his arms defensively. About us. About last night, Taehyung said, his gaze steady. I don't regret it. I think there's still something between us, something worth exploring. After 5 years, Jungkook questioned, his heart racing. You think we can just pick up where we left off? I think we need to try, Taehyung insisted. We were good together, Jungkook. We still are. Jungkook felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear. And what about YN? He asked, needing to address the elephant in the room. Taehyung sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't know what that means for her. I just know I can't ignore how I feel about you anymore. The honesty in Taehyung's eyes made Jungkook's heart ache. Could they really find their way back to each other? He had spent years convincing himself that moving on meant letting go completely, but maybe it was time to confront the past and open his heart again. Okay, Jungkook said finally, his voice steady. Let's talk. Let's figure this out together. As they sat together, the walls they had built over the years began to crumble, revealing the remnants of their love, still vibrant, still alive. Maybe, just maybe, they could stitch together the threads of their past and weave a new future. As Jungkook and Taehyung settled at the table, the air felt charged with possibility and uncertainty. Jungkook took a deep breath, bracing himself for a conversation that had been years in the making. Where do we even start? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Taehyung leaned forward, hands clasped tightly. Let's start with what went wrong. We can't ignore the past, but we don't have to let it define us either. Jungkook nodded, the memories of their arguments and misunderstandings flooding back. We stopped communicating. It felt like we were living separate lives under the same roof. Exactly, Taehyung agreed. But I also think we let our pride get in the way. I never wanted to admit how much I missed you. The honesty in Taehyung's words struck a chord within Jungkook. I missed you too, but I buried it. I thought that was the only way to move on. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting, Taehyung replied softly. It's about accepting the past and being willing to change. We can't keep pretending there's nothing between us. Jungkook's heart raced as he considered Taehyung's words. So what does that mean for us now? Can we really start over? Taehyung hesitated, the weight of their history palpable in the space between them. I think we can. But we need to be honest with each other and ourselves. No more hiding. As they spoke, The sun began to filter through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow around them. Jungkook felt the walls he'd built begin to crumble. "I've been scared to open up again," he admitted. "What if we hurt each other all over again?" Taehyung reached out, his hand brushing against Jungkook's. "It's a risk, I won't lie. But I believe we can be stronger this time. We've both grown, and we understand more about what we want." The connection between them deepened as Jungkook looked into Taehyung's eyes, the vulnerability they shared evident. "You're right. I want to try. I don't want to let go of us again." Taehyung's expression softened, relief washing over him. "I'm glad to hear that. But let's also be clear about boundaries. YN, she's part of this, too. We need to address it." Jungkook sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know. I'll talk to her. We can't leave her in the dark. She deserves to know what's happening." "Good," Taehyung said, a smile breaking through the tension. "And I'm here, whatever happens. We'll face this together." The warmth in Taehyung's gaze filled Jungkook with hope, and for the first time in years, he felt a sense of clarity. They had a long road ahead, but he was ready to navigate it. Later that evening, Jungkook met YN at a nearby cafe. She was already seated, her expression serious as he approached. "Hey," he greeted softly, sliding into the chair across from her. "Hey," she replied, her eyes searching his. "I wanted to talk about what happened." It felt like everything changed overnight. Jungkook took a deep breath, steeling himself. "It did. Taehyung and we talked. About us. About everything." YN's brow furrowed slightly. "What does that mean? Are you two back together?" "It's complicated," Jungkook admitted. "But we both realize we still have feelings for each other. We want to explore it, but I didn't want to do that without being honest with you." She nodded slowly, the weight of his words settling in. "I appreciate your honesty, Jungkook. But I have to admit, I feel hurt. I didn't mean to come between you two. It wasn't your fault," Jungkook replied. "We were already struggling before you came into the picture. I don't want to blame anyone for what happened." YN sighed, her expression softening. "I just want you to be happy. If Taehyung is who you want to be with, then I support that." Jungkook felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you for understanding. I care about you, and I want us to be okay too." YN smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed a hint of sadness. "We'll figure it out. Just promise me you'll be careful with your heart." "I promise," he said earnestly. As they parted ways, Jungkook felt a mix of relief and heartache. He had chosen honesty, and though it was painful, it felt like a step toward healing. Returning home, he found Taehyung waiting for him, an air of anticipation lingering in the room. "How did it go?" Taehyung asked, his eyes filled with concern. "It went well." YN was understanding, Jungkook replied, feeling lighter. "I think we can all find a way to navigate this." Taehyung smiled, and in that moment, Jungkook felt a flicker of the love they had once shared. "Then let's take this one step at a time," Taehyung said softly, moving closer. Together, Jungkook nodded, his heart swelling with hope. As they sat side by side, the threads of their past began to weave together again, creating something new and beautiful. They had a long journey ahead, but for the first time in years, Jungkook felt ready to embrace the uncertainty and possibility of love once more.